Welcome back to Tech Garage, presented by Advance Auto Parts. We're at the final stage of our steering system overhaul, and that is replacing the power steering pump. Now, a couple tips along the way here. We're replacing the serpentine belt with a new quality belt from Dayco. We're going to replace the tensioner, the whole tensioner assembly, as there's a lot of wear and tear on the springs inside this. Now, the next step is to remove the pump, but before we do that, we've got to remove the pulley. And I want you to resist the temptation to not use a puller. If you don't have a puller, just about any automotive aftermarket parts store has these as a loaner tool. You're going to need that to get a uniform press of the pulley off of the old pump, as well as pressing the pulley back onto the new pump. And when you think about a lot of today's vehicles actually have plastic pulleys, you don't want to fracture that or crack it. You really need that to perform properly to get maximum performance out of that power steering pump. So I'm going to go ahead and back this off. The couple turns will press this pulley off, and just take your time here. And it comes straight off. Once we get the pulley off, we only have a few bolts to get the power steering pump fully removed. And at that point, with a new pump in place from Cardone, we've got all the hydraulic pressure we need to get that new rack and pinion system working properly. And there's the old pulley. Comes right off. Keep that fully intact. Now it's just 3 bolts to remove on the face of the power steering pump. Not hard to do.
Now, before we put the new pump on here at Tech Garage, we're going to take a look inside. But first of all, the pump's job is to deliver hydraulic pressure either to that rack and pinion or a gearbox. It's the heart of the system. You know, it only takes 3 horsepower to deliver 1,500 pounds of pressure, and here's how it works. It comes in here through a return line. The return line creates a vacuum, and then through here, these little vanes spin around. As it goes around, the chamber gets smaller and it pressurizes, and it goes through a control valve, and then it goes out either to that rack and pinion or a gearbox. Now, our new pump Cardone sent us, this exceeds OEM form, fit, and function. You got the seals right here, which are high temperature seals, and even more importantly, it's got a precise bearing, and we'll talk about that a little later when we do belt alignment, because that's huge. Also on the box, you have these 3 F's, fluid, flush, and filter. Very, very important. I'll show you why. Right here in 1968 to 72, the tolerances were big. Get a little debris in there, not so bad. Come over to this one here, it's a lot tighter. You start getting debris in there, we're going to start wearing the walls, you're going to have problems with your pump. So what do you want to do about that? Well, you can add a filter. That's what we're going to do on our Mustang. We're coming down here, and we're going to go in series with the flow back to the return to the pump, and we're going to go ahead and start catching some of that debris on the way out. Now, we can flush it also. You can get it professionally flushed, or you can just take your return line off, crank it over, pump it into a bucket down on the driveway. That's the low pressure side, so you'll be safe, but it's important to top it off with fresh fluid and keep it filled while you're doing that. Now, it's a good look at a pump. We need to get this one on the Mustang.
Okay, there's the old pump. Now we have the new Cardone pump set up. We've got the return line pre-plumbed here and clamped with the filter in line as promised. We've got a little bit of surplus of return line because I'm not sure exactly how much we're going to need down on the bottom end. You might remember the high pressure line was pre-connected to the rack, so it's in there. We're going to go ahead and leave this cap in till the last possible minute to connect the high pressure line. You don't want any debris getting down in the new pump. And remember, if you're replacing just one component on this system, pre-flush this whole system before you install the new pump and get any debris in it. So 3 bolts hold the pump on. I'm going to work my way down here, and I've got the pulley press set up as well so that I can uniformly, slowly push that pulley back on right in place, right where it wants to be. 3 mounting bolts for the pump. Again, follow torque specs if it calls for it. Okay, I'll finish up installing the pump and ultimately the pulley, and make sure you use the press and press it on uniformly after the break. We're going to take care of the belt and the tensioner, so stay with us on Tech Garage, presented by Advance Auto Parts.
When do most manufacturers recommend changing your power steering fluid? A, 10 to 15,000 miles. B, 100 to 120,000 miles. C, 40 to 60,000 miles. Or D, every 6,000 miles. The correct answer is C. Additives break down in power steering fluid, which is why most manufacturers recommend fluid changes between 40 and 60,000 miles.